Hey you guys, I want to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of the channels, Dueling Guard, Sleeve Chief, and Imperium Duelist. Check them out in the description box down below and use code SAKO for discounts on all of them. Hey guys, Lucas Sacco here. Today we have a board breaker tier list for the 2025 NAWCQ metagame. It's basically just going to be us going through all of the board breakers in the format and going over what I think about them and how they can be used in the current format. We're just going to get straight into this. We are going to start off with Book of Eclipse. I really don't think this card is very good right now. The only decks it's going to be good against, it's going to be good against the Mitsurugi Ryzeal deck, but even then they're going to have so many disruptions that one Book of Eclipse is not going to be good enough. One other thing that I really am hating in non-engine right now is if the non-engine can get ashed. You really don't want something that can get ashed as far as your non-engine, because you'd rather have something like a hand trap if you're going to play something that can get ashed, or something like a chummy. Because like you'd much rather have a card resolve that says you could possibly end their turn and draw multiple cards than a card that says, hey, I'm going to out one or two disruptions and it can still get outed. So I really don't think that Book of Eclipse is having its format right now. So we're going to put this down here in bad. Moving on, we have Herald of the Abyss. I'm also going to stick this card. Honestly, I think this card might just be homeless. This card had its format back in Pearly days. If you don't know what this card does, you basically call an attribute of something, and then your opponent has to send it to the graveyard. So like you can basically call that like the type and attribute of the monster that you're wanting to remove, and your opponent is forced to send it to the graveyard. So it's not really affecting the card. A lot of people were talking about playing this card for Lunalight Liger. The reason that's bad is because of Silverhound. Silverhound is a card they naturally just use in their combo anyways, and it's a spell trap negate from graveyard. So there's not really a way that you can force it out, and your card's just going to get negated. And if that's your main out for outing towers, then that's just useless, right? We just waste a card in our hand for nothing. So I really don't think this is the format for Herald the Abyss, and I really don't know if we'll have another format where this card will even be playable. Moving on, we have Dark Ruler. I actually think that Dark Ruler is sitting in a really good spot to be good for this upcoming format. If you guys didn't see my Mitsurugi Ryzeal video, there's a really neat interaction with Dark Ruler more into that deck, specifically with prayers. But the wording on Dark Ruler says that your opponent takes no damage for the rest of this turn. And Mitsurugi prayers, in order to special summon from the graveyard, it says take 800 damage then. But if they can't take that 800 damage, they actually can't summon from graveyard at all. So it's a really cool interaction there. As well as it's just going to trade really well into that board because it's a monster-heavy present board. And so trading with multiple disruptions there, as well as a unique interaction that your opponent may not even know about, is super, super interesting. And having something like that can trade with multiple things at once and guaranteed not really be countered is fantastic. We're going to put Droplet up here in the good tier as well. I think that Droplet is very deck dependent right now because there's so many decks that like just have free resources in the graveyard. Things like Lunalight, I think this is not bad in Lunalight. It's definitely not bad in Crystron. Crystron was playing this for a pretty long time, especially if you're playing the correct deck now with Crystron. You're playing like the Millennium package in there. You'll get even more cards that you can use as resources for Droplet to send, as well as the names itself. I think that definitely Droplet is one of the better board breakers. I'll be totally honest, it's just not a board breaker format. If you really want to play board breakers in your deck, totally something you're welcome to do, or you can do a mix and match if you don't have enough to just do pure hand traps. But it's just not going to be the best format for board breakers. But we'll still go through all of them, see which ones we think are good enough. I do think Droplet is in the top 3, though, for sure. I think it's probably a little bit better than Dark Ruler even. Moving on, we have Talents. I think that Talents is phenomenal. Main thing that has like similarities between Talents and Droplet is the card has versatility when going first and second. Book of Eclipse does as well, except Book of Eclipse affects all of the monsters on the field, and so it doesn't really matter if you set up a board. If you're going to turn off your own field, that's not good. But with Talents and Droplet, both those cards have amazing versatility, whether going first or second. As well as Talents is a card that probably should be on the ban list a little bit more than it is right now. Playing the card at 1 is basically playing the card at 4, because if you're playing Talents, you're basically going to play Thrust in your deck if you're really like going for a board breaker approach. And all 3 of the effects of Talents basically used to be banned, right? Like we have a take control effect that was Change of Heart. That card was banned, except this one's better because it doesn't target. We have a look at your opponent's hand. That's Forceful Sentry, I think is the name of the card. Either way, it's cringe. And then lastly, you had the Draw 2. That's Pot of Greed. Pot of Greed is still banned. 3 banned effects on 1 card. I think if you can play that card in your deck, you should probably play it. Moving on, we have Pankertops. I just don't think it's the right format for Pankertops. If you look at the OCG, they started to play this card at the start of Yummy format, when Yummy was the most relevant deck. I'm not too sure as to why that is, but I just know that it may get better in the near future. I haven't looked too much into Yummy stuff, to be totally honest with you guys. I have the NAWCQ that I'm preparing for and playoffs, and so I am focusing more on those things right now rather than looking at future formats. But as soon as I'm done with that, I'll come home and I will look into those get some content made for you guys there. I knew that Pankertops will get better in the future, though. That's basically what all that rant was trying to say. Right now, though, it's probably even worse than Book of Eclipse. Regeki. This card stinks. It's really not good. This is like a Tempai card. Also, dude, I don't know what it is about Tempai players. I'm sorry if this offends anyone, right? But I think if you play Tempai, it like actually just decreases your IQ over time. I don't know if it's like the red 40 that they use to die Chandra, but it's like literally seeps into people's brains and makes them dumber. I was watching someone play Tempai the other day, and in sequence they go normal Pydra, effect to add, activate Dark Hole, and they destroy their own card. And that Regeki just made me think of that. But this card's horrible, and unless you're playing Tempai, you shouldn't be playing this in your deck. Moving on, we have Ultimate Slayer. Ultimate Slayer it's okay. The problem with Ultimate Slayer is it doesn't have a diverse spread into the format. If you look at the last video I did with Board Breakers, there was a unique interaction with Ultimate Slayer and using Boral Code Talker. It's like an old card that never really saw any play, but it had some unique interaction to the Malice matchup. If you guys want to look that card up, it basically like is extra removal for the field as well. So you can use this on like a firewall into the Malice board, and then use Boral Code to out the Allied Code Talker, basically force it out. So that's something that's definitely unique to go into. But it's not trading with enough, to be honest. Like it's not getting rid of the entire board. And if Ultimate Slayer is not being able to get rid of the entire board, then it's probably just not worth playing. Board breakers that are trading for like 1 or like 2 cards in value is just not worth it right now, because for every 1 card that it could have been traded for, it could have traded with their entire turn because it's a hand trap, or it could have been used to just make their board smaller or cut a follow-up, as well as provide a body, depending on what hand trap it is. I think that it's probably at the higher end of bad because it does have some versatility in the format, but right now this card is just not it. Then we have Harpy's Feather Duster. I think this card is pretty decent. It's sitting in a good spot right now. There's a lot of decks that are setting up a lot of back row interruption, as well as setting up their follow-up in their back row. Like the Lunalight deck, it sets up all of its follow-up in the back row. If you can Harpies clear everything there, it's going to make it really easy for you to like push through the Liger. And even if you can't clear the Liger on that turn, as long as you don't die, right? They basically lost all their follow-up. You just have to get to your next turn, because usually at that point they're out of fusion monsters to send for their Liger. And so you just have to like kind of force them to a little bit of a grind game where you can still play the game, and then eventually you'll be able to out their Liger because they're out of ammo with it. And so it's not going to be doing anything. So that's something to keep in mind with Harpies, is that it does have some unique interaction into other decks just based on you playing a little bit more correctly. Evenly matched. This card is horrible, man. This card is just not going to be good in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! For a long period of time. The main issue is the decks have evolved so far in advance that we are now generating follow-up like guaranteed off of just 1 card, right? So like our follow-up is getting either brought to our hand naturally just as we do our combo, and it sits there from the end of our turn until the start of our next turn, or it's just generated on the opponent's turn. And if we can generate that advantage, like as soon as they go battle phase and telegraph, they have evenly matched, we can generate that advantage like almost immediately. And then what will be good, because we can't die, so the main thing is just to focus on like removing the scary threats. Instead of using your board, like your in board at that point, whatever you have left, as trying to stop them from killing you or trying to stop them from establishing a board, all you do is you use them like hand traps, and you try to nitpick things off their field. So you use your remaining, like let's say it's a Cryptor, use your Cryptor to try to banish and keep a detonator from hitting the field. Let's say you kept your prayers, you can use your prayers to summon back your Murakumo and try to like keep a I don't know, any sort of board presence from being on the field, or like try to keep specifically like a Gallant Granite from searching for a nib, anything like that. It just puts you at such a big disadvantage not having a battle phase, knowing that they're going to just be playing for follow-up. It makes it really hard to win the game. Moving on, we have Super Poly. I think this card is super cool right now, and I know it'll get better too. This is a card that's going to get really, really toxic with the Dragon Tails, Draco Tails, whatever that is. I think they had to change the name of Dragon Tails for like copyright issues because of that old cartoon show. That show was really goated, by the way, when I was like 4. But Super Poly is really niche right now. There's a couple different things you can make into the Malice matchup. One thing I was really looking at is for the Malice Mirror match, if you decide to play Malice, you can Super Poly 2 Malice monsters into Desave Worm. Desave Worm actually has like a decent on-field effect, where it lets you special summon a level 4 lower Cyberse from your hand, and then that the Disable Worm becomes that monster's level. So you can actually use Disable Worm to like special like a Dormouse from your hand, and then you can link one to Lingeribo or whatever link one you want to make at that time. But basically you're getting like extra extension off of breaking their board as well in the Malice mirror. And then you have like decent coverage into the like Mitsurugi Ryzeal mirror, having like some things you can make. Into Lunalight, it's just useless. You can't even like really use that card. There is like a funny interaction. Technically, if they use Kaleido and they send a Leo in the middle of their turn, you can super poly into a Liger of your own. That's almost never going to happen. Maybe in the mirror match, but almost never going to happen. And then into Vanquish Soul, this card is almost never going to be activatable. But I think in the instances where this card is activatable, it's very, very powerful. I'm gonna move it down to like the highest tier of bad, just because cards that say you cannot respond are usually good. That's why Ultimate Slayer has pushed the top of this as well. But like saying it out loud, like this card is definitely more of a matchup dependent card, and we are wanting to look at generalized board breakers. So we're actually going to put this down to bad, but in the future this card will get better. That's why I was excited about it. Then we have Lightning Storm. Lightning Storm is basically the same thing as Harpies right now, except it can also like destroy monsters. This is the alt art, by the way. If you guys haven't seen this, it looks super cool. It's got some Cyber Dragon dudes on there. Shout out Dalton69, I think his name is. But this card is really versatile. It's the same thing as Harpies, except it gives you other options, especially into the Malice matchup. Being able to bait out the allied code, then activate this, calling monsters, is really funny because all of their link monsters are going to explode. You can't put a link monster into defense. And so being able to clear those things off is really, really impactful, and just kind of allows you to clear off the extra like fluff that's kind of just sitting on their field taking damage and stopping you from being able to like lethal them. So I think that Lightning Storm is overall just better than Harpies, and these are going to sit in side deck. I don't think you'll ever main deck these for a while. Once again, the game is just getting to a point where you have to be able to hand trap interact with your opponent, or your like breakers have to be so value that they can be main decked and versatile when going first or second, like Droplet or Talents. And these cards just can't do that right now. But like having cards that are like clear out back row is like very unique, and so these cards will probably always be a side deck staple. Moving on, we're going to talk about these two together. This is Gamma Seal and Lava Golem. Right now, people are citing these specifically for Lunalight. I don't think that you really need to commit a Gamma Seal or a Lava Golem to your side deck unless your deck plays Lava Golem like flawlessly. If you're playing Pearly right now, I would absolutely play Lava Golem in your side deck, and I would bring it into like every deck you possibly could. Saying if you're playing like Kashtira, some deck that just doesn't use its normal summon at all, just having like a free removal of 2 where they can't really respond is phenomenal. And so I think that is something that's good, but the Kaiju just doesn't do enough. I think if you can play Lava Golem, it's like a good side deck card. If you can't, then just don't even worry about playing a Kaiju. You should have to worry about a Lunalight out when you're building your deck for whatever event you're looking forward to, but you can't focus it on it just being a side deck card, right? One thing that people are doing in the Vanquish Soul matchup is the Black Luster Soldier, Chaos Soldier, Luster, whatever his name is. It's the Link 3 guy that's big and strong. What they'll do is they'll attack something, and they'll choose to make him big and strong. So it'll be 4,500, can't be destroyed by card effects. That makes it really hard for Luna to out. And then on the next turn, with him being 4,500, you can just run over whatever Lunalight monster you want to. So like a Liger would be pretty easy to out in that instance. The only thing you have to worry about for that one thing is that if they do play the Saber Dancer, they can send Saber Dancer during the end phase, and then they can use it to buff their guy to get even stronger to attack over it. But all I'm saying is that you need to look at in-engine outs or in-extra deck outs to things like a Liger or a Tower, specifically in this format, because we're going to start seeing a lot more of them, and you need to have a backup plan, or you're just going to get caught like off guard and lose games that you're not supposed to lose. We have Metalronis. I really like this card right now. The only thing that I hate about this card is that it gets ashed and it can get impulse. So getting hit by both is obviously not fun. But it has such a high upside potential that it's definitely worth considering still. Obviously, this card is going to clear out Detonator. In the mirror, it's a little bit unfun because you're going to have to banish your Detonator if you want to fully clear it. But you can also just choose to summon a Nib from your deck. A lot of people are playing Nib anyways just because they're playing it as a Gallant Grano target. So being able to use Metalronis special and Nib from your deck and still blank the Detonator effect without having to commit many resources is pretty decent. You can also use this against Malice, I guess, in the mirror. You can use it to just kind of summon names from your deck. If they play IP and you're playing Malice, you can use it to get like a name in rotation, which is pretty helpful. And then moving on, we have Change of Heart. This card's horrible. I'm going to go through these a little bit faster because my throat hurts and I don't have water next to me. besides this. But Change of Heart, it's just awful. It just doesn't do enough. It's one of the cards where it's very like format dependent, to be honest. And in the formats where it's good, it's just like the most powerful card that can ever be activated. Usually it's cards that can be activated multiple times, and it really stinks when they're used against you. Things like Appaloosa are in the format. But right now, we just don't have anything like that, and the card just isn't trading with enough to ever be valuable, so it's just not going to see play. It's actually just a waste of your time to even activate the card. I would scoop before activating this. Then we have Thrust. Thrust is going to be high on every board breaker tier list because it's every board breaker in your deck at the same time. The only difference with Thrust, as opposed to the card itself, is that it's a little bit delayed. So it's not always things like Dark Ruler, but it can always be something like Talents. The only issue with Thrust specifically is it can get ashed, same as a lot of the things that we've talked about here. But at least it is like better into things like that. Because like if they ash the Thrust, then you can still use the original copy of the card that you were trying to get to anyways. So like if you were trying to get to a Talents to draw to, and they ash your Thrust, you can still activate Talents to draw to because you didn't use that Heart once per turn. Effective it there. With two things left, let's go ahead and talk about these. We have Gordian Slicer. This card's horrible unless you're playing like Kashtira. The cost of this card is just too high, as it is right now. When I originally read this card, I thought it banished face up. It does not. Everything goes face down. The resources you banish aren't really usable. I probably wouldn't put it in Homeless, actually. It's definitely better than like a Kaiju. But this card is just not going to be good right now. It takes too many resources, really, to like try to clear off things. And honestly, in the future, it may see more play just because of what decks come in and out of the format and what decks could utilize without using an extra deck. But right now, it's just bad. And then Salesband. I think Salesband is actually a phenomenal card. I think it's better than Metalronis for sure. The main thing with Salesband is that it's always going to check whatever individual threat is the scariest to you. So if you know they searched a Nibiru, you can activate it, call Nib. If you are looking at a Detonator that's really scary, activate it, call Detonator. And the fact that it's searchable off the Thrust makes this card even better. You can't use this card to call like Fawalos. You shouldn't use this card to call things like Droll. It's just a waste of your time. They're not going to have Droll more than likely whenever you have this card. And it just seems like a waste of resources. But into a board, it seems pretty good. Anyways, guys, that's going to be my board breaker tier list for the NAWCQ metagame. If you had any questions or cards that I missed, leave them in the comment section down below. I'd love to see what your guys' thoughts are. And if you wouldn't mind liking, commenting, and subscribing, I'd appreciate it. I hope you guys have an absolutely fantastic day. Thanks. Bye-bye.